Hey, and welcome back to By Myself But Not Alone. This is episode 7, Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, Canada. Now, it's been a little while since we posted a video. A couple things happened right at the end of the tour. First of all, I got sick. End of the fourth leg in Cincinnati, negative 40-degree winds. And then it was a little colder in Cleveland 2 nights later. I got really sick with an inner and middle ear problem, and it never really cleared up. When the tour was over, I got sicker. I stayed sick for a couple months. I went through a couple rounds of steroids, so if I look a little thicker than normal, that's what happens when you combine cheeseburgers and steroids. The other thing that happened, I lost my editor, Alexander. He's done a great job helping me with these projects all along. His grandma got really sick, and he had to devote his time to taking care of her. Then he works 2 jobs, so he just simply didn't have time to edit my videos together anymore. I decided to hire someone, and each time I found somebody, they were all gung-ho at first, and then I think once they realized how much time these videos take to put together, they kind of slowly backed out of it. So I went through 4 or 5 people, and I finally got to a point where I decided if I want it done and want it done right, I'm going to have to learn to do it myself. So Alexander took the time to kind of show me his tricks, and you're going to have to be the judge. Please bear with me. I promise to do everything I can to get a little better. For this particular episode, the one thing we couldn't do anything about was the wind. The audio quality is not the greatest. It's worse than the South Dakota episode, and you'll see when we get to the fan interviews, the interviews of the other fans. It's not good audio. I apologize for that. There's really only one other thing we could have done, and that would have been to scrap the episode. And we weren't going to do that. So at the end of the last episode, I said goodbye to my new friend Michelle. She jumped in her car and headed to Wisconsin. I jumped in my car and headed down the highway to Saskatoon. The trip was smooth. It should have taken about 8 hours, I think, is what the Google lady told me. But I ended up coming in a little bit early. There were a couple spots where I got into some rain. I'd have to slow down, and then as soon as the rain would stop, I'd make up for lost time. Quite a few times on that trip, I caught myself going a little faster than I should have been going, and I'd have to back off of the speed. The reason for this is it was so wide open. I just could not believe how wide open everything was. I didn't imagine anything like that, not on that level. In the previous 2 states I had been in, South Dakota and North Dakota, I kind of felt the same way, but in comparison, Canada opened up even much wider, and I just felt so small. And it's really not hard to catch yourself speeding when you feel that tiny. When you get into different cities, it kind of dies down a little bit, but the roads in between the cities, it's just unreal. So if you've never been to Canada, I would strongly recommend that if you get the chance, jump in your car and take a drive. It's just unreal, and you won't understand it until you see it. At the show, I talked to a couple guys from Canada that told me other places I could go to feel even smaller than I did on that trip. One of these days in my future, I hope to be able to jump in my car for a couple weeks and just go driving around Canada. So anyway, back to the trip. Like I said, I made good time, and just before I got into Saskatoon, I thought it was pretty cool. I saw a sign that said Moose Jaw that way. I kind of laughed at the name, and I thought that was a really cool name for a town, and I continued on, and wasn't long I was in Saskatoon. When I got there, I wasn't messing around. I headed straight for a gas station. I bought a map. When I was going back to my car, there was a guy pumping gas, so I stopped, and I asked him if he was from Saskatoon, and he said he was born and raised there. He asked me what I was looking for when I explained to him that I'm kind of lost. And he told me, yes, real easy, just jump on this highway. It was a circle that went all the way around Saskatoon. So he said, you really can't mess up. If you miss your turn, it'll just bring you right back to where it was the next time. Now, I'm not sure how I did this. I always find a way to mess these things up. I was obviously off of the big circular drive that he told me about. I was kind of out in the middle of nowhere, so I just kept on driving, and eventually I found myself in Moose Jaw. I had to laugh. I just drove on through, and I ended up right at the sign that I had originally passed, and so I remembered how to get back to Saskatoon. And it didn't take me too long. I eventually found my hotel. Went on up to my room, fell asleep, woke up the next morning and headed down to the show. So I got down to the arena pretty early. It was an overcast day. Just looking at the sky, you could tell it was probably going to rain. I believe it was in the forecast, but the wind was insane. I originally thought it was too windy to do any taping, but I said, what the hell? There were just too many people down there. And I jumped right in and started talking to people. I met a lot of cool people from all around the world. Jim Brewer came out. He was hanging out with people. It was a good time before the show. We had rain off and on throughout the day, but most of the people in the crowd had come prepared. Something that I thought was pretty cool that happened we're standing there in line. They let us through the first gate, and we created a new line up by the building. And there was a statue of a hockey player. So I'm just sitting there looking, and all of a sudden it hit me. I said, "That's Gordie Howe." The guy next to me in line laughed, and he said, "What'd you think it was, Gretzky? You can get Gretzky all over Canada, but this is the real deal." I just thought that was pretty cool. They finally let us in, as had become my routine at each new venue. I went ahead and walked around the whole place, went down to the floor, looked around, checked out the place. It was a really nice arena. Next stop, I had to go get my drink. I was looking for Jack and Coke, but they didn't have Jack Daniels, so one of the locals was standing next to me in line. He recommended a Canadian whiskey. He said, "If you like Jack, you're really going to love this." Well, I think I might have liked that a little better than Jack. I was relieved to find out there was an attached smoking area. A lot of the venues don't have that, but this one did. So on my way out, I knew I was probably going to meet some more interesting characters. When I got out there, that's exactly what happened. It was really cool. It was like a little party right outside the building. So I ended up going in and getting another whiskey and coming back out and hanging out a little longer. By the time we got back in, Jim was just wrapping it up. I missed most of the show, but it was okay. I got to hang out with some really cool people. It wasn't too long after that, the lights went down, the Angels started singing, The Ecstasy of Gold was on, and then came Metallica. They nailed it as they always do. The crowd was intense. I don't think I mentioned this in the last episode, but by the time we hit Winnipeg, at that point on the tour, it seemed like the crowd, now I'm not saying anything bad about any of the other shows or any of the other crowds, but there just seemed to be a little bit of an edge. The crowd was a little bit louder, a little bit rowdier. And again, I'm not saying anything bad about the other crowds. It just seemed like there was a bit of an edge. And I felt that same edge here in Saskatoon. And honestly, as far as the two Canadian shows, I think I'd still have to give it to Winnipeg, but man, those Canadian shows were something to be a part of. There was just an intensity there. On the way home, I gave this quite a bit of thought, and I thought, well, maybe it was because I had 2 drinks at each of the Canadian shows versus the one I was having at each show up until that point. Another thing I thought might have affected this was the legal drinking age there was 18. You've got a lot more people drinking a lot more alcohol if you serve them 3 years younger. So for whatever reason, it was a very intense crowd. It was a great show. The song of the night for me was, they did a good rotation. They put Spit Out the Bone back in. They played Hit the Lights. But I'd say my song of the night was Sanitarium. I always love hearing that song, and we got to hear it that night. And after they played Sandman, it was obviously guitar pick time. I had been 6 for 6 at this point on the tour. And I was fortunate enough to get my 2 Saskatoon picks. One for Alexander, one for Jonathan. After the show, I went out front. I tried to catch a couple of the black ticket holders, but everybody got out of Dodge real quick. I didn't see anyone. The last one I ended up seeing inside was Mark, who was driving back to Virginia. So I figured if I felt bad about my trip, all I had to do was think about Mark. He was going a little further than I was. When I got outside, I talked to some more people, got some more pictures. I was talking to 2 guys. I took their picture, and then I was explaining to them about my channel and what I set out to do. And there was a guy standing over there just watching. He seemed to be very interested. And as soon as these guys took off, he came over and started asking a couple questions. I asked, "Can I take your picture?" "Sure." No problem. He was happy to be a part of it. We stood there talking for about an hour, maybe an hour and a half. It was just a great conversation. And then when we finally realized that it was time to go, everybody was pretty much gone. He figured out that he had lost his ride, and I asked him if he needed a ride somewhere, and he said, "Nah, man, my hotel's right over there." And when I looked right over there, the closest thing I saw were lights that were at least 2 or 3 miles away. So I said, "Come on, man." He said he didn't want to impose. I said, "No, man, it's no imposition. That's quite a walk you're going to have. It's raining." So he finally agreed. We jumped in my car. The great conversation continued all the way to his hotel. This guy was just a really laid back and cool guy. He thought it was pretty funny when I explained to him that my whole life, I was 49 years old, and up until that point, the Canadian trip, I had always thought that someday, if I ever make it to Canada, they're not going to like me there simply because I'm American. And I believed that my whole life. And the past couple days that I had spent in Canada just proved that to be completely ridiculous. Every single person I met all along the way, they were just very friendly people. I'm not sure why I thought that my whole life. I mean, I obviously heard it from people, but I'm not sure why I believed it without seeing it. I guess it just goes to show you believe what you see, not what you hear. So anyway, my friend's name is Mark Hauser. I'm sure he's not going to mind me calling him out by first and last name. I just want to say, Mark, it was great meeting you, hanging out with you. We had some great conversation, and if I ever get my 2-week trip around Canada someday, I'm definitely going to be looking you up. To everyone else that was at that show, I just want to say thank you for your hospitality. So I dropped Mark off at his hotel. I explained to him that I didn't have a hotel booked. I was just going to head on back, and he suggested stopping in his hometown, Regina, which is a couple hours down the highway. He showed me how to get there, told me there were plenty of hotels there. So that's what I planned to do. I stopped and got 2 cups of coffee. By the time I got to Regina, the coffee was kicking in, and I was just getting ready to go. So I talked to a guy at the gas station. He advised that I probably want to go home through Montana versus going through Winnipeg. I don't know how I did it, but a couple hours later I realized I was halfway to Winnipeg. So I added 3 hours to my trip. No big deal. By the time I got back to Winnipeg, I did it again. I got lost. I just kept driving in circles trying to find that one road that would take me home. I finally stopped at a park. I saw a guy with his dog, and I said, "Hey man, I'm sorry, I'm a stupid American and I'm lost in your city." He laughed, thought that was funny. He showed me how to get out of there. It was real simple. Hour or so later, I was at the border. I didn't have any problems crossing the border. By that point, I was getting pretty tired. I made it my goal to make it to Fargo. When I got there, I got a room at the same hotel I stopped at on the way up. The next morning, I woke up feeling good. I had a 12-and-a-half-hour trip ahead of me, so I figured I could poke around and still be home by 9 o'clock. Well, I left Fargo at 9 o'clock, and I didn't get home till well after midnight. I ended up getting into some pretty severe thunderstorms in Minnesota. That took a little while. That added to my trip, but right near Hannibal, Missouri, the Google lady messed me all up. Every road she put me on was smaller than the previous, and there came a point where I was on this road that, I mean, if you went off the road that way, you were going down. If you went off the road that way, you were going down. And if a car was coming, there wasn't enough room for both of you. This went on for about a mile, and then it opened up again, but man, that was the worst part of the whole trip. I really didn't appreciate her doing that to me, but a couple hours later, I was pulling into St. Louis feeling pretty good about where I was in the trip. I was almost home. I'd turned my 22-hour trip into a 25-hour trip, but it got broken up with the stay over in Fargo. That was cool. But the trip itself gave me a good amount of time to think about what had gone on for the past 2 weeks. I was having a hard time entirely wrapping my head around the greatness of the Black Ticket. I had seen 7 shows. I had met hundreds and hundreds of very cool people. I got my 2 picks from each show. I was kind of sad that it was ending, but I knew I'd be home for about a month, and then I'd get to do it again. And then 3 more times. It was after midnight when I pulled in my driveway in Muscuda. The little blue odometer said that I had traveled 5,103.5 miles. I was happy to be home, but I was looking forward to doing it again. To everyone I met along that first leg, I just want to say thank you. That's all I really can say. Thank you. To everyone else, I'd like to say thank you for watching. If you like what we have going on here, we'd appreciate it greatly if you consider subscribing to our channel. Tell your friends, share it to social media if you see yourself in one of the videos. Next episode, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Until then, rock on. State your name and where you're from.
Kevin, this is my hometown. Metallica, 32 concerts tonight for me.
Yep. And what's the hometown?
Pardon?
What's the hometown?
Saskatoon.
There you go.
Hi, Eliane from Brazil to Metallica.
There you
My
go.
18th show today.
18? Congrats on that.
Okay, I'm Martin. I'm from Mexico City, but I live here. This is my show number 18. But tonight I'm walking Metallica to the stage because I won a big prize.
Right.
I'm Richard, Outlaw Tour 81 on the boards. I'm from Kelowna, BC. It's my 11th show tonight.
I'm from Lebanon.
Lebanon.
Yeah, it's one of the reasons why I came to Canada at the same time.
First time ever. Well, welcome to the family, as they say.
It's good.
Hey man, I'm Rocky Outers Jr. from Hawaii, but I live in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan. This is my 18th time staying out here in Saskatoon.
Excellent.
I'm Nico from Regina, currently living in Saskatoon to go to school, and Metallica is always a must.
Have you seen him before?
Once.
Once? Well, you're doing better than a lot of people.
That's where I got this name.
Excellent. Yeah, that's nice. I saw that when I walked up.
Brandon from Regina, second time seeing Metallica, always a must.
Right on.
Cameron from Edmonton.
Nick from Edmonton, motherfucking Alberta.
Corey from Saskatoon.
Alrighty. I know how long it takes to get here from Saskatoon. How long does it take to get here from Edmonton?
About 5 hours.
5 hours. I came from Winnipeg from the last show, but everybody told me I was going to be bored. I love this place. Have you seen Metallica before?
Yep, this is my third time actually.
Okay.
Two times in Edmonton. First time was 2012 actually.
Alrighty.
Fourth time, it's first time for me was full Arsenal tour 2012, and then I went to Vancouver last year, and I actually had a Slayer show in Fort McMurray sandwich in between, and then I came back to Edmonton for the show there. So
Wow.
this is my fourth time.
Second time, saw him in Edmonton last year.
My name is Dante Gentile, and I'm from Lethbridge, Alberta.
Okay. Have you seen Metallica before?
Yeah, this is my second time. I saw them last year in Edmonton at Commonwealth. So
State your name and where you're from.
Selena from Saskatoon, Calgary, technically.
I'm John. I'm from Calgary, but live in Saskatoon.
Have you guys seen Metallica before?
No, first time.
For both of you?
Fucking rock.
You excited?
Oh yeah, fuck.
Have you been a fan for a while?
My whole life.
All
Since
right.
I was a kid.
How old are you?
34.
How about you?
27.
And you've been a fan your whole life?
I have.
All right.
Teresa and I live in Vanscoy.
Alrighty. Have you seen Metallica before?
Yeah, we saw them a year ago in Edmonton.
Can you narrow it down to a favorite album?
Favorite album, Master Puppets. It's that simple. Justice. I believe it will be Justice.
Ride the Lightning.
30 years old. Of course, my favorite album.
Yeah, I got the shirt on myself.
I have to go with Ride the Lightning with Master Puppets closely behind me. Ride the Lightning does it for me.
Kill 'Em All and Ride the Lightning are tied for my favorites. Can't really choose between those two. Always good.
Master Puppets, favorite album. Justice.
Alright.
Master! Master! That's what James screams whenever he's ordering food.
Oh shit.
And definitely Justice for All as well.
Master of Puppets, hands down.
Hands down.
That's easy answer.
What makes the album so special?
All 8 songs. That is one album where I can listen to all 8 songs without skipping one song and always be happy afterwards.
Probably over and over, right?
Oh, definitely.
It's, in my opinion, the perfect album.
I agree.
Oh, that's tough. I don't know. I have to say probably Kill 'Em All is my favorite.
Okay. How about you? Oh, thinking still?
Yeah.
Very hard question.
Yeah, it's a hard question.
Just because I like shit off all of them. So you can't really put a favorite album when you like certain songs on different ones.
That's a good answer.
No. No. So, I mean, the black one has more emotional attachment to me, but all.
If they came out here and told you you can pick one song that you're guaranteed to hear tonight, what would it be? One song.
Death.
My favorite one, Sharks Throw.
To live is to die.
The Outlaw Tour.
Ride the Lightning. For sure.
Ride the Lightning.
The solo's amazing.
It's a hard question.
Oh, Damage Incorporated.
Excellent.
Do that one.
I'd say title track from Injustice.
Good one. First song I ever heard of Master of Puppets, and I got it here tonight.
Only all nightmare long.
Ooh, good answer.
I would love to hear that live.
You like Saint Anger? A lot of people don't, but you like that album?
I like it for what it is. Yeah.
I said Saint Anger. Wrong album. I'm gonna edit that out. Death Magnetic.
Yeah.
Yeah, but no, that's the first time I heard that song. That's what it messed me. I was thinking of Unnamed Feeling, and I don't know why. But anyway,
My favorite would be Battery if they came out and play that. I know they tend to play it a ton of times, but that was the song that really got me interested in like metal in general. I mean,
Okay.
It's heavy riffing, non-stop fast drumming, and for an angry 13-year-old just discovering heavier music, I was like, yes, this is for me.
all right.
Dyer's Eve. Justice for All got me through my teenage years. That song in particular.
Master of Puppets probably. If not though, I'll change up. If there's like one song that I'm not sure but I want to hear, Spit Out the Bone. That's one I want to hear.
Okay.
That's my favorite off the new album too. So
Alrighty.
that's one like if I hear that I'll be happy.
I already know they're gonna play the song I want.
Oh,
That's why you would pick another one.
I'd have to say Whiplash probably. I like the thrash with Metallica.
We heard that the other night.
Yeah, it was probably sick as fuck.
Sioux City, I think. How about you?
Were you in Winnipeg?
Yeah, I've been in all of them so far. Yeah, I'm gonna try to do them all. See what happens. But you got a song?
I'm doing Nothing Else Matters. This is gonna be our wedding song.
There you go. You guys getting married soon?
Eventually.
Couple more years probably.
All right. Gonna have a Metallica wedding?
Well, be a lot of metal pounding, that's for sure.
All right.
Sad but true.
Okay, do you have one person in your life that you credit with turning you on to Metallica in the first place?
Yeah, my buddy Chad Tutrin. I was like 12 years old and he pulled out a guitar and ripped off Seek and Destroy, and I'm like, what is that? And that hooked me.
Right on.
Me and my brother saw the Unforgiven video at MTV for the first time, and we went crazy and became fans since then.
All right.
So my brother Roman, probably in 1993, and that was the Black Album, and since then I'm a big fan of Metallica.
My friend Chris, when I was 17, he showed me the Garage, the live cover show from New York. Hooked ever since.
I have a friend from college, her name's Natalie. She told me I'm just like one student or something. I know it's very like cliche, but I listened to it and I just started seeing his world since then. Just got hooked right away.
Right on.
My friends and I, in elementary school, we just ended up buying Metallica Master of Puppets album. We all pitched in for the album. Had no idea what they sounded like because it was in a Quiet Riot, Twisted Sister, Gateway Bands. Put on Battery. It was so fucking heavy. It scared us. We were like, this is too heavy for us. And we're like, we hate this. Too heavy. Too scary. A week later, I'm like, I think it's pretty fucking cool, man.
Hell yeah.
And then, ever since then, this was like 38 years ago. It was a heavy.
You don't look that old.
You know what I mean? So, yeah, just a couple buddies of mine in elementary school. That's what happened.
Right on.
I think to credit my cousin Chris Stevens. He's turned me on to a lot of metal, so thank you for that. Really appreciate it.
Right on.
Got the start of this too. My uncle, he played bass in a couple bands in the city of Regina, and I heard Metallica and never went back.
I think probably somebody in high school, early on in high school, played it or something, heard it, and then just fell in love with it.
All right.
I grew up on much music, so I grew up on the new metal, rap metal stuff from the 90s, so whenever much music was playing, my mom would basically put me in that as the babysitter, to be honest. So I'm pretty sure I saw tons of their music videos back when I was a kid. I'm pretty sure I remember the ending of the Memory Remains video, the Whiskey in the Jar video, but I think it was a friend of mine I met through like a local program. I think it was like some after school stuff, and then he just, got me hooked on all their records. He actually burnt me a copy of one of them, and I was like, oh my god, this is fucking awesome. Then I just said, buying all the records, all of them.
All righty.
My dad was a huge metalhead, actually, so I grew up with a lot of Rob Zombie, Metallica, all the good like 90s metal acts, right?
Yeah.
And I didn't start listening to Metallica until about Magnetic.
Yeah.
Like when I started seriously taking albums, just listening to front of that. And ever since then, I've been a huge fan of my favorite bands of all time.
My dad.
Your dad?
Oh yeah.
Is he here?
No, he was with me in Edmonton though. But,
okay.
I remember playing Guitar Hero 3 and 1, which was the first Metallica song I ever heard. But after that, he was like, here's some songs you like better. And that's when he showed me, Master of Puppets, Seek and Destroy, Fade to Black, all those songs. And
right on.
I've been a fan since then.
That's my mom.
Cool mom, Metallica mom.
My mom.
Your mom?
She did all 80s shit, man. I grew up on
My Uncle Arnold.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool Uncle Arnold.
Yeah, he's the coolest uncle.
Not a person, nope.
How'd you find him? You
Nope.
discovered him yourself?
Yep.
That was a good discovery.
I think so.
What do you think about Brewer opening up? Comedy for a heavy metal act.
Brewer is awesome. So in 2012, Brewer opened up in Vancouver, and he almost got booed off the stage the first night. The second night, he brought my kid, 12 years old, up on the stage. And last night I was out having drinks with Brewer. He rocked.
Okay.
He killed it in Winnipeg.
What do you think about Jim?
I had no expectation about it because it's so different. Normally there is another band opening the show, and he was awesome.
This is the first time when I see him live. We typed in his videos before. It's so funny, and I'm sure he's the right person to open for Metallica.
It's a little different from another band, but I also saw him in 2012 opening, and he gets the crowd up and running. Everybody's really pumped for him, so he's going to be great.
It's a new thing, starting a metal show with a comedy show, but it's, I think they're doing it so it's actually good.
righty.
It's something different. You know, when we saw him in Winnipeg the other night, I'm like, it'd be nice to see a band, but he was actually quite funny. He actually came out earlier today to
I saw you.
I offered him a donut.
I was
like,
watching.
And then I said, come on, man, it's Canadian hospitality. He's like, okay, you're right.
All right.
He was really good actually the other night, and he was funny as fuck.
All righty.
It's a different experience, so I guess I'll see how it is. But I really like his comedy. He's a really down-to-earth guy, so I guess it's win-win.
He's got metal ties, it just kind of fits.
Honestly, I love it. I love variety. Like, my best is covered in different kinds of bands.
Excellent.
I think in school, I mean, I'm kind of sad that I don't get to see another band, because, like, I love that Metallica takes out younger bands, especially when they had their Orion Festival going. They had an awesome band called Battlecross on one of the side stages, and they were getting more popular because they were playing that festival. And then Machine Head got more popular after the Blackening came out, and Metallica with them. They were getting huger. But at the same time, Jim Brewer's buddies with them. He's funny. I'm giving it a pass.
All right.
I'm good with it. Just as I've never seen a comedian before, a rock show before, so.
I like it. I like Jim Brewer. I love his like impressions, and there's never really been like a comedian until him that like does metal impressions and like kind of roundabout it as him. So I'm happy with it.
What do you think about Brewer? Jim Brewer opening
I
up?
don't even know who he is. I was actually kind of annoyed that they weren't having an opening band, to be honest with you. But
He's
he's a
looked him up.
comedian or something.
Yeah, Saturday Night Live. You're gonna know him, I think, when you see him.
Yeah, maybe I will when I see
Yeah.
him.
Probably on Netflix.
He's more like a hype, just to hype the show up, isn't he?
He's bringing a rock comedy show.
Yeah.
I thought the same thing at first, but
Is it good or?
I've been laughing out loud. He's really tightened it up. I mean, really.
Yeah.
I think that's very original. I think he's hilarious, and he's part of the metal rock scene, so it suits.
What do you guys do around here for fun, man? I'm like, woo, that was a drive. I loved it. What do you do for fun?
I got a cabin 2 hours from here, big boat, big stereo, and just cranking Metallica and driving down the lake.
Okay, any chance I could run into a moose? I'm driving out of here tonight.
Yeah, I killed a moose last summer with my truck. Rode it off, brand new truck.
Oh shit, yeah. I'll be
They're all over.
I got a Honda Fit. I'll be hitting kneecaps.
They are not fun.
Anyway, and you guys aren't from here. What about you?
Yeah, I'm from Kelowna, BC. So we usually have the best summers in the world, but we had a couple big fires this year, so we were smoked out pretty bad. But if you ever get the chance, come on down. You'll have a blast.
Right.
Besides Metallica?
I'm just looking for a job right now. Just graduated from college.
There you go.
I go to metal shows, small shows, and it's a shitty little club, to big arena shows, to stadiums, to festivals. If it's got metal and heavy guitars, I'm there, man.
I haven't gone to a show in the last 10 years where I haven't seen this guy. I'm only 21, but I've been going since I was 10, 11. See him everywhere, every show I've been at, so it's awesome.
That's a good role model.
Yeah, I got it, man.
I live my life in shows.
Wait for Metallica.
One final question. If the band themselves happens to see this footage, you got a message for them?
Just keep on giving her what you do. They rock. Best band in the world.
Metallica is my religion. I love you. I love you so much, guys.
I would say thank you so much for all the music you have done for all the fans, and keep going.
Say thank you. You guys are the soundtrack to our lives, man. Keep on rocking.
If Metallica themselves sees this video, send them a message. You got one for them?
Yeah, I want to thank them for creating their book called Back to the Front. They released it like 2 years ago, because it's one of the reasons why I'm actually standing here right now. It's why I like the band, because of their history.
Because of the book.
Yeah, their book is amazing. I suggest everyone should read it. If they don't know the band, they should at least read the book. Maybe they could start listening to the songs and they'll start liking the band, because not many bands have such a story and such a history, because they're a very big influence in the metal.
Alrighty. I haven't heard that one yet. That's an excellent answer. Right on.
I'd just like to thank the band for creating music that was a soundtrack to my elementary and high school years.
And into now.
And into now, you know, there's not very many bands that you're into that can actually start a new genre, a new way of music, you know what I mean? And it's carried me through, you know, I listen to all kinds of metal, but Metallica's always been that band that you can always go back to. It's a classic, you know, so thank you very much.
I'd like to thank them for being the kings of thrash. the whole world of metal that I never felt into without them. Without them, a lot of my musical influence wouldn't be around.
Excellent.
Without Metallica, I wouldn't have found many bands to do. Keep doing what you're doing, keep it heavy.
Final question is an easy one. If Metallica themselves happens to see this video, do you have a message you'd like to send them?
Man, I don't even know how to put it into words, honestly, but I love you guys so much. I love you. You've helped me grow up into the music industry. I've known you all my life. Like, keep fucking rocking. Don't ever stop. Go right to the fucking end.
Excellent.
What can I really... There's a million things I would really say, but got me through some of the most brutal times in my life, especially like when I was just getting out of high school. I honestly got death threats for liking, metal, Star Wars, just anything nerdy or music related, and it made me want to just keep fucking going. It made me want to keep loving music, made me want to keep loving their music too, and really, I just want to say thank you for fucking motivating me. You motivate me through good times, whether like I'm at the gym trying to get stronger, or if it's like going through like a bad breakup or some job bullshit. Thank you guys very fucking much. Metallica!
Perfect.
Follow that. Anyways, yeah, just getting me through tough times. Just love the music. I'm a trucker. I listen to them all the time. Just gets me through long nights. Just loved them from day one. Love you guys. Just can't say enough.
Perfect.
Words can't describe it.
If Metallica themselves sees this video, do you have a message for them?
Thank you.
So if Metallica would happen to see this video, do you have a message for them? You guys fucking rock. Let's fucking do this shit! Oh, do you have a favorite band member, past or present?
Well, of course, James.
There you go. One quick final question.
Leave me for him in a heartbeat.
Excellent, yep.
Excellent. And you wouldn't hold it against her.
Really, no.
If the band members themselves see this video, do you have a message for them?
Well, they got me through some really bad stuff as a teenager and young adult. So, I mean, sad but true. I was a 20-something-year-old, and that just really was an important part of my life to me. And that song really got me through some stuff. So, I love how they do that in their songs and that. So, thank you.
Made it to Saskatchewan, eh?
This case, got to see it's why my brain is red. out there.